right, financial markets have seemingly barely reacted to Iran's unprecedented weekend attack on Israel, which investors fear could incite retaliatory actions. Khanyisa Ngesi is ABSA's Group Investment Solutions head. She joins us now for an overview of some of the latest market moves this Monday. Canisa, it's always a great pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much for coming on. How is the Rand faring so far today?
Not great at all, Michelle. Whenever I look at it, it seems to be weakening at a steady pace, currently trading just below 19 Rand to the US dollar, down just over 0.5%. Similarly, weaker levels against major crosses. Golds and Plats seem to be having a much better day. However, the top 40 and the alt share trading in negative territory to date.
So, Canisa, the focus will be on the IMF and the World Bank meetings in Washington that begin today. What should we expect from those discussions?
Well, Michelle, quite right. So finance ministers and central bank governors from all over the world will be meeting. I suspect the agenda will leverage off the output of last year's agenda, which generally was about the global crisis accelerating and exacerbated by COVID. Persistently high inflation was also top of mind, as well as mounting debt levels and worries of a global recession. I think those will also form part of this year's agenda. In addition to bringing down inflation, what I suspect will be different this year will be the tone, which will be a bit more cautiously optimistic on the global recovery, achieving a softer landing where there will be stabilization without a significant recession. Although we do know that of late we've had heightened global crises, i.e. what is happening currently between Iran and Israel, where we will see what will happen with regards to an impact on global markets. Bringing down inflation, I think, will also form part of this year's discussions. A lot of central banks in many of the world's and vast economies are walking a tightrope of, do you keep interest rates high to rein in inflation and achieve a softer landing? But at what expense? Potentially risking an economic contraction if you keep interest rates too high for too long. Another agenda item that I suspect will be discussed is addressing global debt. The IMF did raise concerns that the global economy is now stabilizing at levels of higher debt and low growth in several emerging economies, including ours and including China. Another agenda item that is topical at the moment is funding climate finance. The World Bank is focused on doing more to help prevent things like disease and to fund climate mitigation and adaptation efforts. The question here will be certainty with regards to requiring more capital to be able to carry out some of these missions, especially as climate change becomes increasingly costly for low-income countries like ours.
Yeah, I get the sense that the discussions will be incredibly difficult just given where we are insofar as global politics is concerned.
Absolutely, Michelle. I mean, I know for a fact that they will address mounting global tensions, including the Middle East, Taiwan, and the latest one, Iran and Israel, and how these could potentially interrupt what now seems to be a better than expected economic trajectory. However, these tensions, I think, could threaten major global supply chain disruptions to crucial global goods such as oil, etc. And I think that will be the key standing item in this year's agenda.
Yeah, certainly. Shall we move on to some company news, Canisa? Barlow World has entered into discussions, the industrial group advising shareholders to exercise caution in share dealings. What does that mean?
Yes, Michelle. So they have issued a statement cautioning investors to obviously be careful and cautious in dealing with company securities until a full announcement is made. Unfortunately, they did not give much in light of detail. But what we do know is that earlier this year, when they issued their 5-month pre-close update, the reported revenue from their consumer industries company Ingrain, which was down just over 5%, they gave a myriad of reasons, but mostly due to lower volumes, reduced export pricing. They cited port challenges in the Durban harbour and a global competitive pricing of starch throughout the period. If you look at Ingrain, it is one of Africa's largest producers of unmodified and modified starch, glucose and other products. So it is providing quite a bit of a segue into consumers, consumer confidence, and the particularly challenging macro backdrop that we've seen not only locally but globally as well. They gave us a similar guidance on their group revenues of down just over 5%, reflecting these very challenging and complex and diverse trading environments.
And then Serus Real Estate achieving an 8.2% increase in overall rent for the year ended March. Talk us through that performance.
So, Michelle, they are a leading owner and operator of branded business and industrial parks and what you call flexible workspace, particularly in Germany and the UK. Some solid numbers coming out of their 8.2% increase in overall rent roll, 7.2% on a like-for-like basis, which is the number that we mostly look at. And I think this reflects management's ability to improve both rates and occupancy across the group in spite of the wider macroeconomic conditions that we've seen. I mean, this is their 10th consecutive year that they've achieved strong like-for-like numbers. By strong, I mean in excess of 5%, similarly across both the UK and Germany. In Germany particularly, they benefited from really a strong occupancy. They started focusing efforts on selling vacant space and improving tenant retention. And with now, what we're seeing is that inflation has fallen significantly since last year. So they've been able to demonstrate the strength of their sort of in-house asset management capacity and the platforms that they actually use to be able to generate overall good returns for their space. They do expect to see some slight yield expansion in their year-end property valuation, specifically in Germany. They've seen some strong operational performance there, which should translate into overall strong value in their German portfolio. And maybe lastly to mention, in the UK, they also continue to achieve above inflation rate increases, albeit at a slower level than the recent past. So some strong numbers coming out of Serus.
All right, Khanyisa Ngesi, always a pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much for joining us here on Daytime Update, ABSA's Group Investment Solutions Head.